This is the last little class for this year. What's wrong?
Move it.
Okay. So we've been learning about the sacred scrimmage of the Azara. We talked about where you are allowed to eat, where you're not allowed to eat the korbanot, where you may do shchita, where you may not do shchita. We talked about tunnels. We talked about the area that was an adjunct. Depends where the doors open into or not. And of course, the sacred area we said is this. This mic is giving me charas. Okay. So the 10th halacha of the 6th chapter of Hilchot Beit HaBechira reads as follows. Beis Din. And this Beis Din, we're talking here about the Sanhedrin. Sheratzu lahaisif al Yerushalayim. They want to add to the city of Yerushalayim. Why are we talking about the city of Yerushalayim? This is about the Beit HaMikdash. This is about, right, the Holy Temple, the Temple Mount. I'll tell you why. Because there is halachas about the city of Jerusalem, just like there's halachas about the Beit HaMikdash. And that is that certain korbanot have to be eaten within the holy city of Yerushalayim. What does it mean that Yerushalayim is a holy city? It means it's a city that affords us opportunities to be able to nurture a deeper, more profound relationship with God. It's a city in whose precincts we're able to achieve a greater closeness to the performance of mitzvot. And some mitzvot can only be done in the city of Yerushalayim. This is the kind of notion of bringing certain foods, sacred foods, into Yerushalayim. When we bring an offering where the offering has to be consumed, like a Passover offering, a Pesach Seder, the question is, can you enlarge the city? Can you make the city bigger? Well, guess what? Historically, we did make the city bigger. In fact, Chizkiyahu HaMelech made the city bigger in order to accommodate refugees. The refugees of the 10 tribes who were ousted, who were exiled, some of whom began to trickle back. So, Beis Din sheratzu lahaisif al Yerushalayim, they can do so. Or lahaisif al ha'azara, this is new. You can make the actual precinct, the scrimmage of the Beis HaMikdash, which is the best of my knowledge at least. I don't think we ever did that. There was an Ezrat Nashim, right? That's this extra area added on to the front, but the actual Azara is the same Azara as the first Beit HaMikdash. This addition was never sanctified in the same way as the Azara, as we discussed in detail in our previous classes. So the Rambam says, Mosifin, if you wish to add, then you are allowed to add and to expand its scrimmage. The Rambam doesn't say this, but in the Jerusalem Talmud, in Masechet Sanhedrin, near the beginning, it says that you could even make the Azara, the Heichal, this building could even be enlarged. Now, we don't know that it was ever enlarged. To the best of our knowledge, it was never made any larger, but in theory, it could be made larger. V'yesh lahem limshach Azara, how big can you make the Azara? How big can the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash be? Ad hamakim sheyirtzu mahar habayit, as long as it's within the precinct of the Har Habayit. So the Har Habayit is actually 500 cubits by 500 cubits. This is much, much larger than the actual area of the Beit HaMikdash. You could, in theory, enlarge or expand the area, the sacred scrimmage of the Azara, and so that it would encompass the entirety of the Har Habayit. And how about the city of Yerushalayim? Limshach chomes Yerushalayim ad makom sheyirtza. The city of Yerushalayim could be expanded really as much as you like. There is no limitation. So Har Habayit is Har Habayit. The Beit HaMikdash still has to be in Har Habayit. Har Habayit is not the landfill. Hordus, Herod, built up the mountain much, 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 much larger than it ever was. He expanded the mountain. What we see today as the Kotel is an enormous retaining wall around an area that's far bigger than most people realize. It's almost like 3/4 of a kilometer long. It's very, very long. It's a very large area. So when you have a bird's eye view, you don't realize how big it is. It's a big, big area. This large area, which takes easily a good 20, 25 minutes to walk the entire length of the Har Habayit, at least from south to north on either side, is very, very large, much larger than 500 amot by 500 amot. However, even though Herod built up that mountain, the mountain was not sanctified per se. And that's why you have people talking about going into the Har Habayit, but walking on the Har Habayit, even though they're not in a state of ritual purity. The problem with this all, of course, is we don't know where exactly the Beit HaMikdash was. We don't know exactly where the Chamesh Me'ot Amma, Al-Chamesh Me'ot Amma, where the 500 Amma by 500 Amma are, to be able to be certain to walk there and say, okay, we're good. And because we're in doubt, and because it's a very serious and grave transgression, many, many Torah leaders do not advise going on to the Har Habayit. This is a very contentious issue, very, I'm going to call controversial, but at any rate, just so you understand, we should always try to understand each other. That's why many people are loath to go onto the Har Bayit altogether. You're playing with fire, as they say. Now, again, we don't know of the Azara ever being made any larger, but it could be. We do know of the city of Yerushalayim being made larger. In fact, we have found the older walls of where Yerushalayim used to be, and we know where Yerushalayim was subsequently. What comes as a surprise to most people is when they think of the old city of Jerusalem, what do they think of? They think of the Jewish quarter, which is really a Jewish eighth. That's all we get, unfortunately. We're in a big galut. All we get is about an eighth of the city of Yerushalayim. But that Jewish quarter was like Thornhill to Toronto. That was like an adjunct. That was a later thing. In the Second Temple era, that was built up as a suburb, and later the landfill for the Tyropian Valley kind of attached that addition to Yerushalayim to the original Har Bayit and to the original Yerushalayim. The real city of Jerusalem is down below in the south, what they call Silwan, where unfortunately very few Jews live. That was the real Ir David. That was the real city of Jerusalem. That was the real city of David. And we know this from extraordinary discoveries that are ongoing there in the archaeological digs. We have discovered palaces and eras and ages being uncovered. That's the original city of Yerushalayim. So we know Yerushalayim was expanded. Question people ask about the walls of Yerushalayim today, is that actually the holy city of Yerushalayim? The answer is yes and no. Some of those walls are built on ancient foundations. Some of those walls are actually rebuilt walls that Suleiman the Great built on the original walls of Yerushalayim. Many of the walls are not. Many of the walls are new walls, nothing to do with the original wall of the holy city of Yerushalayim. But even though there may be areas of Yerushalayim that were not included in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, when Mashiach will come, the city of Yerushalayim will certainly be far, far larger than it ever was before. There is a medrash that says, Asida Yerushalayim shetispashet b'chol Eretz Yisrael, that the Yerushalayim, the holiness of Yerushalayim, will be eventually spread forth and upgrade the entire country. It says that the Har Bayit will spread to the whole city of Yerushalayim. I'm not sure which city or which city limits. And that ultimately, the holiness of Eretz Yisrael will permeate the entire globe. When Mashiach comes, we'll find out exactly what this means. May it be speedily, and in our days, B'mheira will be Ameinu. Amen.
Yesterday, there was a marble basin and a gold basin. Where were they located on your?
Yeah,
There was
they
a
went on the
marble
top right up
basin
there.
and a gold basin. Do you remember that?
No?
Are we still live?
Yeah. How do I do it?
You gotta press finish.
I can't see finish.
Okay, wait, you know how to press finish?